Hi, so we've had another new alpha build and some more changes to Retribution Paladins. If you want to make sure that this is the most up-to-date video you need to be watching, just click on the annotation there that says playlist. I always prune that, so it's only got the most relevant ones for you to view there. And what I'm going to do in this one, I've got mixed feelings. There was some feedback given by Blizzard in a number of areas last week, which I want to recap, as well as look at the changes this week. So to recap, the first piece of feedback that came in from Blizzard was the statement that Mastery is intended to be a single target stat for Retribution Paladins. So we were thinking for many weeks that this unwieldy Judgment debuff, which does not work at all properly in AoE, even when you take the Greater Judgment talent, is intended. It is intended that basically our finishers do much less damage in an AoE, or that our AoE finishers do much less damage. Unfortunately, the feedback also said that Greater Judgment should allow you to spread it into AoE, and this is the problem: the fact that it is not doing, and it's not just that it's not working; it's working absolutely as they intend it to be working. It just doesn't work. It actually doesn't do anything. Because I've noted last week, but I'll go through again really quickly. If ads suddenly appear and your judgment's on cooldown, you cannot immediately put that onto it, but you might have 5 Holy Power ready to use on them. Or, let's say you've got lots of ads in, it's only supposed to spread to up to 3 targets. So again, the more ads there are, the weaker it is in that situation as well. However, that's the way it is, and that's their state of design now, so we sort of leave that. So then we turned our attention to Greater Blessings, which is another bugbear. It's again another feature that no Retribution Paladin, no serious Retribution Paladin, in PvE at any rate, appreciates. It's not a good talent. Nobody thinks so. And yet Blizzard are persisting with it. So now what they say is, it's already been noted, and I'll point this out as I go through in the gameplay, that if someone changes talents, they lose the Greater Blessing. So you have to keep a track on everyone. But now what they're going to do is that they say that they're going to have the Greater Blessings persist through death and not be castable in combat. So what that basically means is you put your 3 Greater Blessings of Might on the 3 people that you think over the course of the fight will do more damage. So some people will appreciate that. It means they don't have to think about different phases of the fight, although, you know, whatever. There will be, that is one of those things where some people will like it and some won't. So I'm not going to argue about that, because that's something where the community is split. But what nobody, again, is going to like is the fact that if the person you choose to put it on dies, you get no benefit. Okay? If they're within 40 yards of you, you get your Retribution buff for 10 seconds, 50% extra damage. But that's it. That's it, gone. So if the people who have your Greater Blessing die, you lose it. So I queried this, and the response was basically, but yes. But then if you die and they don't, you're getting some free damage. Not really sure that I'm buying that at all. That's an absolute nonsense. And the point I made, although there was no response to this, but you know, you don't expect to reply to everything, was that Paladins are supposed to be reasonably survivable. Whether we are or not remains to be seen, but certainly we have some survival tools. So shouldn't we be more survivable than the glass cannons that we are supposed to be placing Greater Blessing of Might on? In which case we are going to outlive them a lot more than they're going to outlive us. In which case I don't really see that as an even bargain at all. But that's the negative side of this build. There are some positive ones as well. In fact, actually, the changes that we've had are actually quite positive. So let's go through them. Now, without discussing abilities that have just been tuned, I'm not going to go over things that have been increased or decreased, with one exception at the end. But the first one that's actually been changed, talent-wise, is the Greater Judgment. It's now, instead of doubling the duration of the debuff, it reduces the cooldown on your judgment by 2 seconds. So what this now means is there is a window. Now, although this is a nerf, it's an obvious one to make. I mean, the problem with Greater Judgment as it was before, by doubling the duration, it basically meant as long as you use Judgment off cooldown, there is no window to worry about with this Colossus Smash effect. You always have the Judgment debuff up, assuming you're on the same target. So it had to be done, and this was something that obviously had to be done at some point. So what it now means, realistically, with a moderate amount of haste from I'm in quest gear, it's about 9-second cooldown on Judgment. The debuff lasts 6 seconds, so you've got 6 seconds of it being up, 3 seconds of it not being up if you use Judgment off cooldown. And you won't always, absolutely, but that's the situation there. The main change comes in the level 100 row. Equality has been buffed so that it does, instead of 100% of your missing health in terms of damage, it does 150%, but it's still the same ability. It still encourages the same degenerate playstyle, as it's been called. But again, it's another one that no one really wants this ability. Blizzard are insisting it's a good ability. It has no practical use. But it's not one for me that I'm going to argue against, because I don't care. I've said, and I'll say it again, when it comes to talents, what I want to know is, in any given PvE situation I'm going to meet in dungeons and raids, can I pick talents that will allow me to have the tools to deal with any fight? And if the answer is yes, then I don't care if there are dead talents there. If the answer is no, which it is, then I have an issue. But the actual, Holy Wrath was buffed a little bit as well. The actual big change was that Blessings of Justice have gone. So Blessings of Justice, remember, doubled the chance of the Greater Blessing of Might proccing in that case, because we don't apply it to, we're not going to use Wisdom or Kings, although I'm going to mention something about Wisdom in a moment. Now, given that when we place Greater Blessing of Might on people, we can't change it in combat, and if they die, we can't put it on someone else, that obviously meant that taking the Blessings of Justice talent would have been a huge risk, because we could be losing potentially 20% of our DPS on choosing reckless targets. And reckless people, obviously they tend to die more, but they also do the most damage. So they've got rid of that talent altogether. So Greater Blessings is now just completely baseline, nothing to buff it. Instead we get Divine Purpose. Now a lot of people are very pleased about that. Divine Purpose has a number of interesting features. The first, it's exactly the same as in live, really. One feature is the fact that it is a proc, and people have bemoaned the fact that the Retribution Legion version of a Paladin hasn't really had procs. This gives another little proc. The only downside to it is it messes about with Fires of Justice, and Fires of Justice has a proc which used to be called Conviction in the early days of Alpha, which meant that you get this proc, and it means that you can your holy power spenders cost 1 holy power less. Now the problem with Divine Purpose is it sort of consumes that proc. Bit of a problem, but maybe that just means don't use both of them together, or maybe they won't coincide very often anyway. It's not that big a deal, or maybe it's just a bug that can be dealt with. But what Divine Purpose is really good for, if you take Justicar's Vengeance, another talent, remember. Now, Justicar's Vengeance, if you watch my last videos from the last couple of builds, it's a sort of self-healing one, really. When you're in a situation where you can stun, it does very good self-healing. It also does very good damage. It does, even in its base form, it does more damage than Templar's Verdicts, but it costs 5 holy power to Templar's Verdicts 3. So its damage per holy power spent is not as good, unless the mob is stunned. If it is stunned, then it is better, it is worth using. But with Divine Purpose, you get a free spender. So the fact that Justicar's Vengeance on an unstunned mob isn't as holy power efficient doesn't matter, because it's free. So you use the Divine Purpose procs on, in a single target situation at least, Justicar's Vengeance. and that is a DPS increase because it does a bit more damage than Templar's Verdict. So those two talents will synergize quite well. So even when you don't need any self-healing, you can still use that, and it will do. Even when you take Final Verdict, which is, buffs Templar's Verdict as much as you can, Justicar's Vengeance does do more damage. So this is quite an interesting one, and I've tried this one out a bit in dungeons as well. I'm not necessarily convinced, but I don't know where we are with number tuning at the moment. In addition to losing Blessings of Justice, our greater blessings have changed in another respect, in that Blessing of Wisdom now looks more respectable. The 1% mana and health that it returns now occurs every 3 seconds. So actually, it may now be useful in certain situations. I haven't really thought about it in any great depth, but it is now at least going to be respectable. I do not think it's going to be something we use over Greater Blessing of Might. How could we in a group PvE situation? But for soloing purposes, it would be okay. And even perhaps in a dungeon, maybe in a dungeon where the healer particularly felt that they needed it. Or even, I suppose, something like an Arcane Mage where it's a DPS that actually manages to use its mana somehow. It might actually be useful in those situations. And the final minor thing to report is that Divine Steed now appears to be working indoors in dungeons. So if you want to be able to move for 3 seconds quicker than normal, then you would actually be able to use that. I think in reality, though, Seal of Light is probably going to be more useful if you're going to take a movement speed increase. The only problem is that Divine Intervention is so useful, it would be really annoying to have to do that, but our mobility is so awful, and mobility is so important that realistically I think we are going to have to take something on most situations. Now, add-ons are actually allowed in the alpha now, so I've been playing a bit about with, I put DBM in, but I'm not sure I was paying too much attention to that. I think that was a bit later. But I also put in Tell Me When. I haven't set it up with everything I want yet at the moment. I've not done this fight before, I think, where everyone's blowing everyone up at the moment here. And of course I haven't set up everything. I've got my MSBT going, but it's just combat text everywhere. It's just, I mean, even though I don't know what these abilities are yet, because I hadn't looked them up in advance, and I've not done this boss before, again, it's just another fight where movement. I think for dungeons, I'm probably going to have to think in terms of taking Seal of Light. Obviously, I would. It's a bit of a shame that we have to choose between that and, say, Divine Intervention. I'm not because Divine Intervention is really useful, but I suppose in a dungeon, probably less need for it. So as I say, on this particular dungeon, I hadn't installed DBM just yet. So there's a particular debuff we get on this where we need to move out. So I'm just alerting myself to it and hoping the tank doesn't pull too early. Because, yeah, that's causing us some wipes at the moment. Unfortunately, this here tank is one of these people who's obviously done the fight before, knows it, but rather than actually telling people about it, just goes, oh, everyone's shit, why are you so shit? Amazingly helpful. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of, you can see that we can get nice visual effects with the Divine Purpose there. Now I'm running out with the thing. But again, it's like, and there's something else to move out on. It's just so annoying, the movement thing. And there are so many fights that have this, and it's almost like, do you know what it's like? It's like they're trying to design fights so that demon hunters can show off. Because this isn't just about paladin mobility, but I think most melee classes are going to get fucked off by fights like this. I'm constantly moving out, and and then the thing that links you up in a sort of triangle, which you need to move about, because you can see the purple shit over there that it makes. You need to create a small triangle out the way somewhere. Oh yeah, that's right. He was trying to kick the demon hunter, and then the whole group disbanded. So, and that's hitting 3 people. So there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be one of the people it connects up. So between that debuff that you get every so often, and between the triangle thing and dodging all these orbs and things like that, there's so much movement. And as I say, it's not like there's this fight and maybe one or two others. There's so many fights where there's just a massive amount of run out and run back in and things like that, and you lose so much time on the boss. Divine Purpose proc there. Someone stunned the mob, so take advantage. Justicar's Vengeance. Extra damage. Lovely. No, I'm just trying to see. The blessings are a nightmare to manage. Because when I'm soloing, I put all 3 on myself. And then we come into a group and you think to yourself, oh, well, if I put might on myself and might on another person, might on a third person, it should all sort itself out. But no, it does funny things. So you just have to, yeah, just deal with it. Sometimes you do think to yourself as well, when you get a Divine Purpose and AoE situation, you probably need to think to yourself, how much is a Divine Storm worth? Is it worth still doing a Justicar's Vengeance, especially if I've got a stunned mob? So we'll have to sort of work these ones out once final numbers are completely tuned, and we'll go into Legion Live. So probably a whole section on this just when I do my video guides eventually. There we go. Just checking, he's not got Blessing of Might anymore, so making sure it's on there. You keep having to check these. I mean, what it probably is these people are changing talents, maybe for different pulls. And of course, when you change talents, you lose your Greater Blessing. So you have to keep tracking people, you have to keep monitoring them. I suppose most important before a boss fight, but you know, useful on trash as well. It is as well, you'll notice when you look at the logs that it does now count as my damage. You will not see any damage for Greater Blessing of Might on the people I'm putting it on. It's all counting for me, and so it is as Blizzard are intending it now. So it's a good proportion of our damage now, and again, real bad news if someone dies. So I'm still sticking with Final Verdict here. This is a pure single target fight, so Execution Sentence would be a decent one, but I'm still trying Final Verdict out. Using, of course, my Divine Purpose procs with Justicar's Vengeance. It's so long, do you know what? It's so long since we haven't had the Greater Judgment that we've had in the last couple of builds that I am not as paying attention as much as I should on the Judgment debuff window. So I need to do some more dungeons and maybe do another one, an update. We'll see what time I get for that, or might just wait till next week to see if there's another build out, and if there isn't, just do another one then. But I do want to practice more now and actually use Execution Sentence, and maybe not use Greater Judgment so much. The reason why I'm not keen on using Fires of Justice though at the moment is because, as I say, the Divine Purpose seems to be consuming that Conviction proc, but it's in other respects it's a really nice ability. I would quite like to use it. Oops, we've got a defective bridge here. That's not very good. Right, so what I'm doing really is building up a bit of Holy Power using the Judgment, then using Avenging Wrath for finishers. It's just as well it gives you a movement speed increase on that. But this is really annoying, isn't it? You use Avenging Wrath, you get done for the thing, which means you can't attack and you're wasting it all. At least when we had Hammer, or when we've got Hammer of Wrath in live, we can chuck a few sneaky hammers out at it as we run away. But there you go. And there's another one where we've got to move away. But this isn't, again, I'm not moaning about rep mobility on this one. That's just pissing all melee off. That's just a let's piss melee off type thing. And it doesn't take that long for me to get back in from that one. So this particular fight, I've not got real mobility. I wouldn't take a mobility booster, I don't think, on this fight, because unless the tank's daft, or whoever gets that thing where you have to kite it away just loses the head. You're not far away from the dog, it's not too bad. But again, the fact that you do have to move and Judgment debuff wearing out, and if you've got a Divine Purpose proc and it only lasts so long, that can be a little bit annoying. I think I got it off on that cave. So it was okay. But you can see the damage isn't brilliant, but is that just because I'm not using the talents that I really should be for a single target fight? or is it just because I cocked too many things up, or is it just because I haven't been tuned yet? Again, I mean, I keep saying I wouldn't worry too much about numbers at the moment. I'm more worried about gameplay, and we have bigger problems at the moment. The numbers are always tuned to be sort of okay within the confines of the mechanics. It's only when there's bad mechanics that the tuning becomes impossible. So I've got greater judgment on this one, again, to minimise downtime on the window. Whether that's all that suitable in a single target, I'm not sure yet. But this is a boss where I think you can stay quite close to him for most of the fight. I'd not done this one on Heroic before this time. It turns out there are ads, which I wasn't expecting. But there you go, never mind. But you can still stay quite close to the boss, so it should still be fine. In principle, it's just getting into the habit, into the muscle memory of build up. And I said this before in several builds ago, and then I've got out of the habit. I need to get back into it. Of, get your holy power builders, then use your judgment debuff, and then spend, and then just keep rinse and repeat like that. But if you do take execution sentence, and I do on the next fight, then it becomes a bit different. I'm going to have to do some real practice for that before I can do that one decently. With those ads, I don't know whether I'm supposed to just beat them up or run away from them. I've got another divine purpose proc there. I want to use it. But it's just a hectic play style with this Colossus Smash thing, and it's just practice. It will be fine. I mean, Arms Warriors have had to put up with it. Why shouldn't we, in a way? But except, of course, why should we have Arms Warrior abilities when they've gone for this class fantasy thing so strongly in this expansion? But we will get used to it, and using Weakos will tell me when we'd be able to track the judgment window. It's just a case of practice, and it's the sort of thing you can practice on a training dummy even, because it's just about getting it fixed firmly in your head not to use finishers when that judgment debuff window isn't up. And the problem with that, of course, is what some people don't like, is it means you're pausing. It means there's times when you've got abilities you can use, and you just wait in a second. And a lot of people don't like that. And it is really strange that Blizzard are persisting with a play style that is alienating a lot of Retribution players. It would sort of only work if, one, those same Retribution players are happy playing a different class, which may or may not be the case, because if they're not, then they stop playing the game. Or that you've got lots of players who previously wouldn't have wanted to play Ret, suddenly want to play Ret because of this play style. I'm not really sure there's too much evidence of that. So it's one of those, but there's no point in asking, because when you ask about actual mechanics just working, never mind about the philosophy of them, you can get some pretty short replies from the responses. So there is no point. Again, this is another bad movement one. Now I've taken execution sentence on this fight, but I'm not using it at all well because I've not practiced it for so long. I really shouldn't have done. I need to beat a training dummy for a while and then try again. We end up wiping on this one, and then I take it off for the next one. But it's the thing with the execution sentence. It's sort of been tuned and fiddled with, over the months. And it's a pretty rapid fire one now. I mean, with the haste I've got, I think it's like 7.4 seconds it takes to fall. So you're using it. You mustn't use the judgment straight away after it, because judgment window is up for 6 seconds. It takes 7.4 seconds for execution sentence to fall. So you need to wait a couple of seconds, because you do need that judgment debuff up on the target when that execution sentence lands. But it's just so rapid fire. I mean, every 7.4 seconds, you need 3 holy power for it. It means you're going to use a lot of execution sentence. It's going to be very possibly your main use. You're going to use more of those than Templar's Verdict if you do it well, I should think. But yeah, this one caught me out. I didn't actually realise this was a thing in Heroic. I was actually trying to lay on hands myself. I don't know, was that me dying and they set me off just before that or what? I don't know. I'm not actually sure what the purpose of this is. It's not like I can do anything. It's just like preventing anyone rezzing me up, I suppose. But yeah, for the next one, I think I'll just decide. And I'm not even tracking. You'll notice on the tell me when I'm not tracking execution sentence. I wasn't actually intending to use it. I just thought, oh, the hell with it. And the reason is because so many dungeon bosses do have ads. Not all, by all means. There's plenty of single target ones. I just seem to keep getting into dungeons with ads. So I wasn't really using execution sentence much at all recently. But yeah, I'm just taking final verdict again. Greater judgment and divine purpose. Again, because I'm not keen. At the time I was doing this, I'm going to change my mind now. I wasn't keen on taking fires of justice and divine purpose. But in actual fact, I don't think they would coincide that often. So I think I probably would now. So I would change talents were I to do this fight again. But there you can see again, Justicar's Vengeance every time on the divine purpose. Because why not? And again, just really annoying when you've got Avenging Wrath up, DPS cooldown. And you know you're not going to be able to get full use of it. I shouldn't have used it at all at this point. I got hit by one of those things, bloody fuck. I keep doing that. Shouldn't have used Avenging Wrath at the start of the fight, of course. I kept forgetting, and this is the second time I did this boss, obviously, we wiped beforehand, so I had no excuse for it. I kept forgetting that we get buffed when we turn into Valkyries in that phase, and of course that's when I should be saving it. But there you go. When you're trying to focus on something else, that's what you end up doing. I'm not even... The DBM has been really nice to me as well. It's telling me exactly where to go on a compass point, and I'm completely ignoring it and still looking around for the bloody icon. You can't help some people, can you? But I'd only just put DBM on for this dungeon as well, so not used to having it in alpha. But yeah, this is where I should have Avenging Wrath, because I think during this phase as well, he doesn't do the thing where you've got to run out as well. So all this thing here. So I'd have probably got most of the use from Avenging Wrath, if not all of it, because at the moment on this particular build, I don't have any traits like points in the ability on your Ashbringer, which increases the duration of your Avenging Wrath, so it's just 20 seconds. So I'd have probably been alright there. I need to be better at dodging those balls of light. But yeah, this would absolutely be a good fight to have Execution Sentence on, because you can use it at ready or as you run out. One thing though I have noticed, I need to query this, is Judgment doesn't seem to be usable unless you're facing the target. I don't know whether that must be a bug, because it's not like that on live. I've noticed this for a few builds actually in alpha. So, in summary, I would say that the actual changes that will come with this build are positive. The greater judgment, the fact that there is now going to be a window, was something we knew was going to have to happen. So the fact that that is now here and we can't just go the easy way of making sure that we always have the judgment debuff up means that we now have to start playing properly. So I'm going to be starting to use execution sensors properly and tracking things properly. Now that we can use add-ons, that'll be even easier. So I'm going to spend some time this weekend getting onto that. The Divine Purpose is a positive change as well. I think a lot of people will welcome that. We've had some tuning here or there. I need to actually do a lot of dungeons, I think, this weekend, if I can. On the downside is the fact that what our chief problems are. The greater blessings are a big problem, and they are here to stay. And we've known this for a while, they're here to stay, but they're still a bad mechanic. The fact that the greater judgment debuff is a debuff and not a buff on us, the fact that it is mirroring this Colossus Smash style of play, is a problem for multiple reasons. One is that it is Arms Warrior playstyle. People who are... It's so different to the way Retribution Paladin has played for years, that the people who choose to play Retribution Paladin because of that playstyle are instantly going to be turned off it. The fact that also that it's a very poor style, because Arms Warriors have things to cope in AoE. They have things like Blade Storm, for example, which we don't. And the problem is, you could say, okay, well, they could just buff our Divine Storm. Well, they won't, because if they buff our Divine Storm and we are able to use Greater Judgment to spread that debuff, then it means our Divine Storm does too much damage. So it's one of these ridiculous situations. If they're going to call it a single target stat, they'd almost be better off not allowing the Judgment debuff to spread at all, and buffing the Divine Storm, I suppose. But it's just made too difficult. It would just be so much easier if they made it a buff, but they're so adamant they're not going to do that. And as I say, with the Greater Blessings, the fact that it is not going to be swappable during combat, yes, it means it's not a pain in the arse for people who don't really want to do that, but also it means you can't make full use out of it, and the fact that you can't even replace it when someone dies, means that you ain't half going to have arguments with people. If you're putting it on someone because their damage is good, and they die early on in a fight, you are going to have to kick them in the nuts repeatedly, because they are screwing over your damage. I mean, you can see on the logs how much damage that Greater Blessing of Might is doing, how much of my damage it is. So one person dies, that's a third of it gone. And these things are here to stay. We know they're here to stay. The equality looks like it's another thing that's here to stay, but, you know, I am less bothered by that, because, again, I look at the level 100 talents and I think, Holy Wrath is actually alright. I might actually start using Holy Wrath more. It has potential. Divine Purpose, of course, has very obvious uses. So they're two perfectly fine talents. The talent rows I now have a problem with. I still don't like that Greater Judgment is competing with Zeal, because Zeal doesn't get a look in. Zeal, as a talent, is a perfectly nice talent. You know, the idea that it turns a single target ability into an ability that can cleave, even though there's like build-up time for it, is still not a bad talent. It's just that the ability that it is allowing to cleave does dog shit damage, which means that you will still use Greater Judgment in any situation where Zeal would be useful. So Zeal becomes a dead talent. So Greater Judgment is just in the wrong talent row, but it is now very difficult to see where else it could go. I also have an issue with Divine Intervention sharing with the movement talents, but again, it's very difficult to see how you would now mix that up. The fact that the talent trees are now looking very settled. And again, it just comes down to a number of the fights. As you notice here, you can see here, a number of these fights, as I've said before, I think are designed to show off Demon Hunter's mobility prompt, and I think a lot of melee will have issues with them. It's just that we will have more issues than most, because some classes will have a baseline movement ability that will get them out of something quickly. Some will have a baseline movement ability that will get them in quickly after they've moved out. We don't have either, you know, so we move out slowly and we move in slowly, unless we take a movement speed talent, which is, even then, not as good as some of the baseline stuff that most melee have, and it means we can't take our survival talent. So that's where we are at the moment with it. It's not all doom and gloom, and the numbers may well be fine when it goes live, but in terms of the way it plays, you can well understand the criticism and the fact that Blizzard are sticking their fingers in their ears and point blank refusing. It's not like I have a problem with it and they're not listening to me. Oh, boo hoo! It's like everyone who plays at any sort of competitive level, in PvE at least. I'm not sure. I don't look at PvP forums. It may well be the same now. I don't know. But in PvE, they're all saying the same thing. It's consistent, and it's like, why are these people who don't play Retribution Paladin themselves think they know so much better than the ones who do? And this is a real issue. But there it is, and that is the way it's going to be. But it doesn't mean to say there won't be improvements. This build was an improvement. All the negative stuff is related to the comments they made in the last build. Because they're basically telling us that the things that need improving most are not going to be. But it doesn't mean to say that some things won't be improved anyway. We'll just have to wait and see. It's a waiting game now. And the good thing is, even though some people are now saying, well, I'm not going to roll Ret, I'm going to go for a different class, we're not in any hurry to do that at all. Anyone who is still progressing at the moment is focused on that progress. You're focused on live. You're not focused on what's coming in Legion. And if you're finished and done and dusted, again, you're not in a massive hurry to shore everything up. We've got plenty of time. We've got several months before final decisions have to be made on rosters and things like that, and what you're doing. And if you're planning on changing guild, there's no hurry to do that now. There's no point in doing that now. You know, roundabout launch is a perfectly good time to move into guilds, when some people, when the expansion goes live, decide, actually, I quite liked having my time off, I'm not going back. So there's no hurry to commit to yourself to anything, whether you like this or not. If you don't like it, I would just wait and see what happens. But anyway, hopefully that was useful, and if you've got any questions, there's various ways to get in touch with me now. You can email me, you can put comments below, and I'll try and get back to you. You can tweet me. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you later.